Yo, hello, everybody, and welcome to this bonus good shit with me, 420 Chili Sash, and my boy up there. I'm extremely jealous of this man up there. That is Jeff, head honcho of Island
Hey.
Sun, Canada. Hello, Jeff. How you doing, mate?
Hey, good. Good to see you, Sasha.
Yeah, man, good to see you too. Why am I jealous of Jeff? I'll tell you why I'm jealous of Jeff. I'm a hot sauce dude. You're a hot sauce dude as well, of course. In a weird way, that's now my identity, actually. Would you say that that's like your identity as well?
Yeah, I would say people just know me as a hot sauce guy, and I'm fine with that.
It's kind of weird. I come from a background of, so I never did the 12 steps program, but I did deep into and out of drug problems in my life. Clean these days, great. And one thing I noticed from those days is that when I strongly identify with being a this or a that specifically, that it's perhaps not very healthy for me. I don't know. Is it healthy, you being a hot sauce dude? Do you think that's a good thing in your personality?
For me, I think it's great. I mean, there's obviously a lot more to you than being a hot sauce person, and there's a lot more to me than being a hot sauce person. But I think there are worse things to be known as up front. So
That's for sure, right? Well, I mean,
I'm
for
not
you,
known as a
talented
I'm not
musician
known
as
as
well.
yeah,
Sorry
not
for
known as
interrupting.
not known as a millionaire or anything like that. So yeah, that's fine.
It's probably better, actually.
Yeah,
But
probably.
you're also a musician, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a hobbyist, really. So, but yeah, so, but yeah, I've delved into a lot of things. I used to work primarily as a graphic designer or doing marketing before this kind of switch. But I've always cooked. I've always been a foodie. I've always been a cook. I've always experimented on stuff and try to come up with new things. So I think it's just one other way of kind of expressing yourself. And I I don't know. I've never been really I wasn't always a huge kind of ancestry person, but then I sort of got the bug a little while ago to figure out my dad's background and my mom's background, and that sort of led me a little more further down the road of what kind of hot sauce that I wanted to create. Yeah, so I mean, there is some benefit to that, and there's some connection to family, I guess, which I never really felt a lot in my life. So I guess that's good.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing because there's one thing I was about to ask you, and you've added a second thing onto it right there, actually, which is that I notice down the road I'm mates with, and I have the great honor and luck to be able to call my friends a bunch of really nice dudes who make hot sauce all around the world, and
Yeah.
women, men, some half actually, if I think about a few people I know,
Yeah.
and there's one thing that I see as a red line through them is there's a fuck lot of creative people, like people who are playing guitar, trumpet, writing stories, painting pictures, and
Yep.
so on.
Yep.
So my original question I was about to ask you, because I've asked a lot of hot sauce dudes this, which is, why do you think that kind of person is drawn to the hot sauce world? But the second question I will lay on there, which you just brought up, which is this also seems to be a lot of people coming from a broken family background. I don't mean broken like completely fucked up, destroyed, some of them, but then people who are somehow without the strong family net or background that a lot of people are lucky enough to enjoy. And I find these people also tend to float into the hot sauce world. So what do you think? Why are those two kinds of people in our world?
Well, I think there's also that sort of like element of danger in hot sauce that sort of, like when you go to hot sauce conventions or trade shows, you always, it's amazing who you run into, especially with the makers. There's some really very diverse, but yeah, like there's always that bond of sort of some sort of a, there's definitely some sort of a pain involved with their lives. I don't know exactly what it could be, but yeah, for sure. Like you kind of just you just sort of like, you know, I guess you just peered through my soul a little bit there. And I mean, in describing that I, you know, I wasn't really connected to my family, and now I sort of am. I had a very, very bad relationship, like a Cain Abel type relationship with my brother, who was a little more than a year younger than me. He ended up passing away, and after he passed away, my relationship sort of like started getting better with others in my family, because I never wanted to be where he was. He never wanted to be where I was. And that was through our lives. So that's my little bit of, you know, there's a peek inside, but it's, yeah. And I've never really, I mean, I've always been someone who feels that like the friendships that I've made in my life are just as important, if not more so, than some of the blood relationships I may have. And going, I'm not exactly sure where your family's from, Sasha, but I know like when I went to Barbados to meet, you know, some of my relatives, it was such a vast difference in our lives, and just Barbados is like 100 years behind, like in terms of like social. I guess it's not a modern kind of society. So like there's a lot of trappings that are at least 100 years old there, if that, I don't, makes any sense. So you know,
makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So it's I didn't feel really connected to it until after my brother had passed away, and then I ended up kind of digging deeper into things, and you know, and kind of seeing a different side of it, and yeah, so it's good. I guess there was a bit of a healing process that happened there, and but yeah, to be honest, I'm not even sure about. I mean, it's a great question. It's one to keep thinking about and considering, right? So, how about yourself?
Yeah. For me, well, yeah. I mean, I think like most people floating around in the hot sauce world, I have a relatively creative spark inside of me. Most people I know in the world, like yourself, are playing musical instruments, painting, that kind of stuff. Yep. And for me, I've always been a writer, comedian, performer all through my life, dancer as well in my early years. I think there's an element to making a hot sauce. It's a bit like writing a song, or a good joke, or choreographing a good dance. You know, I know some people who are professional cooks, and they work mostly by instinct and taste. So they're instinctively doing something, and then they're tasting it to tell them if it's right or not. I know a lot of hot sauce dudes who work from a creative picture, which is a bit different to the cooks I know. I know a lot of hot sauce dudes who have an image in their mind, and it's a picture of something, and that's the recipe of the hot sauce, you could say. And then they build it there and then create it. And very often they'll taste it and go, yep, there we go, I got it. A couple of little modifications, but I got it, you know? So they've painted a picture from their mind. I think that's my side of the creative guy. And certainly in terms of the family side of things, so my family is a very divided kind of a family. We are classic for Jewish diaspora who ran away from Stalin and Soviet Union. And so you've got different types of people in the family. Some of them are Zionists, you know, very pro-Israel, against Palestine. Right. Some of them are the exact opposite, anti-Zionists. They don't like Israel's activities in Palestine. Some of them are deeply, deeply Russian. Georgian, actually, is where my people come from. Okay. Very, very, very strongly so. Georgia, the mountains. The Caucasus Mountains. And some of them have integrated as much as they can into a non-Soviet world through the 1970s and 80s, or 60s if they had the luck. And so therefore the family was always massively divided, very satellite, lots of different places, lots of different languages, and fundamental differences in what we think reality is.
Yes.
Reality, yeah, reality and morality. And so therefore, a lot of elements of things that I personally, for example, find extremely important to my morality or the parameters of my reality would be the exact opposite to very close family members of mine. And so hot sauce community, I would say from that perspective, come back to my own question. I'm there because it's a family, much like so many different families I've often tried to build around myself, a family based on understanding, if that makes sense. Although it's not all understanding in our community. I mean, I see the hot sauce community divided into parts at the moment. Three, I guess you could say. Let's say part A, totally neutral. There's a few people floating around, couldn't be more neutral individuals. They are neutral, not this, not that, not the other. Vanilla ice cream people, let's say. And they often make great hot sauce. The other division side goes much like the political lines, right and left. And on the right side, you've got your Second Amendment loving, AK-47 toting, Donald Trump voting, sort of slightly hillbilly, I guess some people might say, conservative individuals. And on the other side, there you've got freewheeling, lefty, often creative individuals, you know. So it's not exactly one unit, but I think that we kind of function as one unit, I suppose. But the Bayesian thing fascinates me. Now, for the people out there who don't know about this, because you need to, I told you, Jeff, I'm slightly jealous of Jeff. And the reason I'm slightly jealous of Jeff is that Jeff is modest, and so he's shaking his head like I don't need to be. But all the best people are slightly modest, is something you find in life. Jeff created one of the few once in a lifetime hot sauces I ever tasted. There's very few hot sauces when I have a big fucking mouth, and I got a lot to say about stuff, right? And really rarely does a hot sauce go in my mouth and I just can't, there's nothing I can say. It's all there. I can't say good or bad about it. It's just like, all right, that's a once in a lifetime experience. Apart from Bayesian Tiger at this point in time. Now the sauce from Jeff I'm talking about is a sauce called Bayesian Tiger. Do you have a bottle of it somewhere near you? There you go. That's Bayesian Tiger hot sauce. Now, you know, Jeff, to be honest with you, I would say in the last few years, I can think of right now one name that springs to my mind, which would be, there's a company in Berlin, not that spicy, who make a raspberry-based hot sauce called Frieda's Fire, where they've managed to keep all the pieces of raspberry round as pieces.
Nice.
Yeah, and it tastes delicious too. It tastes unbelievably delicious. But this is another example, like Bayesian, where I tried it and I just was like, whoa. Now, this is interesting for me because of a few things. First of all, how the fuck did you do that? Second of all, explain the Barbados link for it, the Bayesian link for us. I really need to know.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm blushing, I think partially because of the hot pepper that I ate earlier. but yeah, no, I really, really appreciate that. And I don't know, I'm kind of like, so when I was a kid, I was a really big fan of mustard. As a kid, I would eat spoonfuls of mustard and people would think I was crazy as a little kid. And if it was hot dog day at school, which we would have hot dogs specific days of the week in school, I would just fill my hot dog with mustard. My father actually would pour Barbadian style, like a little yellow bottle of hot sauce, and I didn't know what it was at the time, on my spaghetti when I was about 7. And my brother and I would eat this, and it would, it's like, wow, like, oh, but I wouldn't stop. I just enjoyed it. And then I started adding it to other things, to sandwiches and so on. And years later, I mean, I asked my dad, like, where where did you where did you get that? And I guess some relative had given it to him, brought it from Barbados and gave it to him. But you can't really find these yellow sauces on the grocery store anywhere near us or anything. So it was I kind of fell out of my mind. And then when I was younger, I went to travel to Barbados to on vacation and to meet family. And here we are at breakfast, and there's a massive jar of like a squeeze bottle of hot sauce on the table, right? There's no ketchup, just a hot sauce bottle, right? So you're pouring that on at breakfast, you're pouring it on at lunch, you're pouring it on at dinner. It's just like a condiment, right? And in Barbados, the stuff that I tried was not dissimilar to my sauce, but I wanted to make something that was hotter, and I wanted to make something that had a little more of a texture to it. And I wanted to use good ingredients. So like, because I knew in the island, if you go to someone's place and their mother makes the sauce, it's fantastic. So like, she or he or the father will take like turmeric, real turmeric from the ground, the root, wash it, take hot peppers that are grown, fresh, mangoes that grow on a tree outside, and they would make this amazing concoction. And somehow it was that marriage of mango, lime, garlic, turmeric that was, to me, without the pepper, it was even just like this magical sort of a mixture. And then it's like, who would ever put all those things together and then add, with vinegar, of course, and with then you add the Scotch bonnet pepper, and it's just like, wow, this is just a magical thing, right? So for me, I loved it as soon as I tried it again in the island, and it sort of brought me back to that, like a matrix. It brought me right back to that moment as my dad was pouring it on my spaghetti, and I thought, this is one of those magical moments where it's sort of, the memories are just so solid, like it overrides everything, and it's a moment of joy. And so, you don't get that many of those all the time in life, and when you have them, it's like I'm a bit of an addict. So as we can probably understand, and it's just like, I want to do this again and again, and I want to add it to my food, and I want to keep adding it, and you build tolerance, etc. But I'm babbling right now because I'm like thinking of those moments. But sorry, back to your question. So how did I kind of come up with what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I think I had been making sauce. It's interesting. My non-Bajan relatives on my mother's side are into way hotter peppers than my Bajan side, way hotter. So like, my uncle on my mom's side was growing chocolate bootlas, and we were eating them. He and I were getting together, or like Trinidad scorpions. He didn't grow any reapers at the time.
Chilies, man.
Yeah. So and he had a really great yard that got a lot of sun, like coming from the exact right spot. And the back of his house was red brick, and the heat coming off the bricks it was just like this magical environment where he would give me bags and bags of any kind of nagas, like infinity vipers, like anything. He grew a ton of stuff, and I was like, well, if you're gonna keep giving them to me, I'm gonna try and make some sauces. So like, I was making sauces. I started really poorly by making sauces with banana and things like that, and I didn't understand how to preserve them. So I would like use them for a couple days, and then they would go bad, So it's like, oh, I got to add vinegar. I got to add these things to like preserve it. And I didn't ferment anything at the time either. So it was kind of like there was a lot of small projects. And then I finally cottoned on to like the idea that, yeah, oh, you've got to like make sure the pH level is this, and you've got to make sure that, so, and it's clean. You've got to have an incredibly clean process. Otherwise things can start getting moldy. And so, yeah, like just one thing at a time. And friends would come over, and we'd order pizza, and I would say, here, try this, and, you know, blow everybody's head off with like this hot sauce. But then when, as I mentioned before, when my brother had passed away, I kind of, the whole world for me sort of opened up, in that I was always paranoid that he would louse up my plans. I was always paranoid that he would like do something if I was to gain any momentum by inventing something, that he would be there to
And steal it.
steal it or laugh in my face if I fell or whatever, you know, like that's a terrible relationship we had. And when he was gone, it was just like, oh my God, like the world is a different place. So, I mean, for those who, you know, have problems with their siblings, or, you know, you're not the only one out there. It happens. Not every family is a happy family. And
yeah,
but
that's right.
There are some good that comes out of tragedy as well. But it's yeah. So what I basically wanted to do was I knew from working in marketing and working as a designer and a creative person that anything that's got any substance has to have a solid story behind it. Like there has to be some sort of like a grain of solid truth or some sort of interest to like make something, you know, worthwhile or marketable.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know, what kind of hot sauce am I going to make? What kind of hot sauce could I make? I really don't know. And then I was like, oh my God, my dad he's from Barbados. I love that sauce. So I took Jody, my wife, to Barbados, and I hit every place on the island that made hot sauce, and I tried all of it. It was fantastic, and we had a great time, period. But you know, great place to visit. It's expensive, but go and check it out. But I went to all the different areas, and I particularly focused on the sauce that was developed near where my dad was from, which is on the it's on the eastern side of the island near Bathsheba. If anyone knows, he's from St. John's Parish, which is close to where, ironically, close to where Rihanna's dad is from, the Fenties. Yeah, so
point of reference.
Yeah, weird. But yeah, I've never met her or her family, but I don't know that I ever will, but who knows? I would love to. But who wouldn't? But yeah, so I focused on that, and I made sure that like I literally made about 1,000 bottles and gave them out to like make sure that I had something that my ancestors' relatives would enjoy, and one that wasn't directly like, you know, the big names. And so like I sort of wanted to make something that was my own.
So you gave them out to people on Barbados or in Canada or in both?
In Canada, primarily in Canada. Primarily in Canada. I also did question people who are from Barbados and ask them, you know, what they thought of it. And a lot of them wanted more sodium. Like that was a common thing. And I kind of went, well, I don't think it needs any salt myself. And I know that I knew a lot of people that had to watch their sodium levels. So I thought I wanted to make something for them as well. I like the way it cuts through things. And generally, if I'm cooking and I need salt, I will add salt to it. So like usually, like if I want something salty, I will add salt to begin with. So I thought I wanted a sauce that would kind of cut through that, sort of like a salty type of a meat thing, like a steak or on chicken wings or whatever it is. I wanted something that would cut through that and also sort of make your breakfast nice, or, you know, in a similar way to they do in the Caribbean. So, I mean, that's kind of like where it started. I kind of like just just kind of jumped into it, and I sort of like went over hurdles. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and one of the things that I'm happy about, especially in Canada here, is that it was a very small community for a while. It's really growing now that the industry seems to be picking up. I'm not sure how it is in the UK or in Europe, but it sounds like it.
I mean, the Canadian hot sauce industry is astonishingly large, if you ask me. But then, I mean, you've got real old school motherfuckers right there. I believe, I'm trying to remember the name right now, but you got some guys floating around since the 70s who are still producing right now. I'm trying to remember my name right now. 1974, original Canadian hot sauce, a good friend of Heiko Kriegersman, in fact.
Cooksville?
I think maybe, I think that might be right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Cooksville,
So I had the distinct pleasure of setting up at a show directly beside him. So I was beside him from Cooksville, and he and his wife, and just fantastic. And
74, man, that is 4 years before I was born. Yeah, that is some original gangster shit right there. Do you know what I mean?
And it's good. It's good sauce. And so here's the cool thing is that he was like so giving, and he said, look, if you want to, you know who you want to talk to is this person. You have a pen. And like, so he was, he gave me all kinds of connections. He's a very sharing guy. And so like, for me, it was like, well, this is awesome. There's no hostility. There's no, he just wants, and Heiko, as we mentioned before, he's been a great mentor as well. Like, so he was definitely someone that Heiko looks up to. And then Heiko told me about him afterward. I was like, really? I was right beside him. It's so cool. He's a wicked guy. So
I mean, just like the level of, I mean, I've been buggering around selling hot sauce since 2017. It is now, in case people are looking outside of our time frame, what year is it? 2022, isn't it? Yeah. And so that's 5 years, man. It's for some people, I'm astonished. Some people come to me and they're like, be my mentor. Show me how to do stuff. And I go, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I do. It's such a big compliment. Yeah. But then when I look to, I mean, I have mentors. We spoke there about Heiko Kriegersman. Yeah. I mean, certainly in terms of the idea of a combination business of growing and producing chilies and managing to create small batch quality on a relatively not massive but larger scale. Certainly Heiko has definitely been an inspiration for me. Johnny Hexenberg in South Africa would be another one. But you talk about someone who's been banging the drum since 1974. Now, that's a whole other game. That is 48 years. How old am I this year? 43, 44? That's like 48 years, something like that. Yeah. Astonishing. So anyway, I want to get back to this thing with you and the development of Bayesian and the development of your company. So you put out a bunch of samples to people and you got the sodium feedback, and then,
Yeah, so outside of that, I got like, I mean, in Canada, I was kind of targeting people like generally like, middle to upper class folks. What I knew I probably wasn't gonna win over necessarily Bajans or Caribbean people, because they sort of, a lot of them, and I can't generalize, but all of them, but a lot of them, already knew that they could go to the Caribbean store down the street and buy a $3 bottle, that was roughly the same flavor, but I knew in my heart, I mean, you look at the ingredients, it's like this color, this, and it's not really turmeric, and it's not really this, it's not really that. Altogether, they get used to the, and the big names, but I won't bother mentioning them. But for me, it was like, that's tastes fine if you have nothing else, but like, what about this? You know, like it's got real chunks of turmeric, mango, etc., that are going to hit you on different levels. And I also added ghost pepper, which is kind of the secret weapon in some ways, because as you know, I mean, one of the things I wanted to do was, okay, there's a lot of one-dimensional hot sauce that like have one type of pepper in it, like a Carolina Reaper. And so you're going to get Carolina Reaper. You know what to expect. So you're going to get something that builds, and it's going to like hit you kind of in the back and sort of like flamethrower your head, you know, like that's the whole concept there. You're going to have the black hole in the middle of your body at the end of it. But I wanted something that would have that fruity taste of a Scotch bonnet, and then have a lingering sort of like a under there ghost pepper that would like, you could almost, and it's funny because that shows if people are tasting it, you can see them go, oh, it's hot. And then they'll go, oh, there it is. Like, so you can almost count down 5, 4, 3, and then the ghost sort of hits them a bit. So it's to me,
one of the reasons why I hold the Bayesian Tiger sauce in such high regard is because, like every chili head out there, all of us have a specific chili that doesn't play with our palate very well. That's true. For me, it's the Nagas. It's all of them, yeah? And when we go into the direction of a Butulorca, for example, there's definitely not a chili my body likes. And when I got my hands on the Bayesian, I was like, whoa, you made that work, you know? It really works. It's astonishing to me. It's astonishing to me.
Thank you. Turmeric.
Yeah.
Turmeric.
Sorry.
The other part. Turmeric. So a lot of people who try it and don't have the ingredients in front of them are convinced that there's ginger in it. And I'll say to them, it's not. There's no ginger in it. There's turmeric in it. And the reason I get turmeric by the root, so I don't buy the powder. So nice. I'm using actual turmeric root, and it does taste somewhat like ginger. So it's a lot closer to ginger than when it's dried powder. So to me, there's that little, you know, and that's like from actually visiting Barbados and actually going to a place that makes it fresh, and then trying the other products and going, no, that's definitely got to be the way it is. So the cool thing is, my business model, it's funny. I've been in grant programs and kind of like business programs, and people are like, so you're going to get it co-packed and you're going to go this route and you're going to want to like grow the company and have employees. And my answer is no. I want to keep it incredibly small and keep it incredibly pure. Like I don't want people messing with my recipe. I don't want anyone telling me that I've got hero ingredients and then the rest of them can all be supplanted with something else. I don't want any of that. So, and I think it's a bit of a, you know, here's another bit of a therapy thing, is that I am a bit of a control freak. I've made peace with that. So it's like, you know what, this is my own little, you know, man cave, so to speak, of control that I can control. And I never like being an employee for anyone else. So why would anyone want to be my employee is my thought too. So it's like, you know, from those angles, I'm small business. I like being in a small business. I like being able to be flexible or inflexible as I choose. So, I mean, hey, I wanted to say, I love your mustache, man. I'm a huge Salvador Dali fan. and it always gets me. It looks great. Nice.
I'll tell you the trick. The trick is beeswax.
Oh, yeah?
Beeswax, that's what does it, yeah.
I can't grow anything. So, I mean, this is all I get. But
you should try doing the eyebrows.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah. But yeah, so
Yeah.
does that answer your question?
It does answer my question. And actually, I think that's a lovely point for us to leave the lovely ladies and gentlemen out there with this evening. Pay attention to that, what you've just heard there. Sometimes in life, your goal isn't and shouldn't be, I want to be the biggest swinging dick on the fucking block. I want my Mercedes to be 10 times bigger than the other guy. You know what? In this world,
want the smallest. I mean,
I want the smallest dick on the block. In this world, it's people like Jeff who provide you with your quality of life, because the reason why you've got quality of life is because there's people like Jeff who really want to do something special, and that makes your life also special, you know? So remember that the next time you're wondering about what you are, what you want to be, and how you want to be it, that's where really special life experiences come from. And I know it because I was breathless after I tasted that Bayesian tiger. And I hope you will be when you do. Well,
thanks.
I guess from my boy up there, my Bayesian tiger, from myself, both of us going to say ciao for now. So everybody,
yeah.
So ciao.
Yeah, ciao, guys.